This is the tech tip video about front kingpin oil for the X12 So after we put together the front suspension, we have to add a kingpin oil, basically a lubrication of the front kingpin. So an oil that applies to the front kingpin that lubricates the kingpin in between the steering block and the kingpin axle. So this is recommended for all conditions. I don't recommend running without kingpin oil for any type of condition. It always helps the handling to be more consistent and to help the car absorb bumps better and so on. I mean, basically it's a dampening for the front suspension because we don't have a shock there, but we can use the kingpin oil to make it work as a dampener basically. So in the kit we have 10,000 CST silicone oil, which is a standard kit setting that we're going to apply to the front kingpin. So how can we fine-tune the handling with this? Going up in oil, going from 10 to 12, 15, even 20,000 in silicone oil for the front kingpin will make the car less reactive, will make it flatter and more forgiving to drive, so the initial reaction will be slower. And this is mainly beneficial for high grip conditions. So if you start with 10K, which is a kit setting, but you feel that the car is too reactive, maybe it wants a traction roll, or just is too nervous to drive, doesn't carry corner speed. So then we can go up in oil. We can go from 10 to 12, 15, even 20,000. And if you race on lower grip conditions where you want to generate as much mechanical grip as possible, I would recommend going down in oil from 10 to 7, 6, even 5,000 sometimes, but I will not go outside of that range of oil. So how do we apply it? We grab the bottle. As you've seen here, I've already removed the steering block from the kingpin. We're going to apply a small amount of oil here, which I'm just going to smear it around with the bottle like this. Don't overdo it, don't add an excessive amount because it will just make a mess. You'll have to reapply this every few runs, so especially if you run on dusty or dirty conditions, it helps to reapply this every few runs, so every 2 or 3 runs basically. And the best thing to do is to remove the steering block, clean the kingpin with a piece of paper. And you can even use brake cleaner to clean the kingpin to get all that old oil out of it and apply new oil. And I recommend doing this every 2 to 3 runs. But the amount that I've just added here, just enough to create a dampening action up and down. As you can see, it's moving really smoothly now. And this will be enough for first few runs. Put the droop shim on top of the steering block here before we put the spring and screw back on. So you can compare now the kingpin, which has oil on it, feels a lot smoother, has a bit of a dampening effect compared to this side, which has no oil. So it feels very springy. You can feel that the suspension is moving in the spring more than it's moving like a dampener. So that's very springy. This smooth almost feels like a dampener. And that's the difference between adding kingpin oil and no kingpin oil. And obviously this effect is increased the thicker of oil that you use. That's Kingpin Oil explained, and that concludes the tech tip for Kingpin Oil.